Hey there everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Canadian Ross bayonet. And what I have right here is a decent example of a Mark II second pattern. Now, Ross bayonets, the nomenclature gets a little bit confusing, but basically there's a Mark I and a Mark II. And there's kind of two patterns of the Mark II. First of all, the Mark I is going to look like this. I'm going to use a copy of Bayonets from Jansen's notebook. Now, this would be a Mark I, sometimes referred to as a 1905 or a 1908. There's various reasons for that. But you're going to see that the muzzle ring on this one is a little bit extended right there. And the finial right here is slightly large. There's also going to be an internal spring inside of that that's going to kind of help the bayonet fix to the rifle a little better. When they go to the Mark II, you're going to see immediately that they make the muzzle ring completely flush. There's no extension there. It doesn't hang over the grip. You can also see that the finial is a little smaller, and that internal spring was removed. Now, on the second pattern of the Mark II, which is what you see right here, they modified the point so that it looked a little bit meaner, and it was a little bit sharper. Apparently, it was having problems in the trench. They would even take these later on and turn them into fighting knives after the Ross rifle was found to kind of be pretty ineffective in trench warfare. So the Mark I gets approved in 1909. The Mark II first pattern is going to look like that. It's still going to have that butcher blade style. Alright, so the Mark I has that kind of a hefty front there. Mark II pattern 1 is going to have that butcher blade still, but it's going to have the features of Mark II. You can see the muzzle ring is still flush. It's got that smaller finial, and the springs removed. So they modified them during World War I in 1915 or so, to have that point right there. Sometime in I think March 1916, they also give it this phosphate coating on there, as you can see. So later on they find out that the Ross rifle is not that great in the trench, and Canada switches over to United Kingdom's basic, the British SMLE and the pattern 1907 bayonets. About 20,000 Mark I's were sold to the U.S. for training purposes, I think. And those are marked U.S. on the grips here and on the scabbards. That's one thing that this does not have is the nice leather scabbard that comes with it. There's a picture of it here, and I'm going to have another video where I can show you the conversion, the trench knife conversions of these, and it does have a scabbard. I believe that they also made Ross rifles for the Brits, and those don't have any dates or Canadian acceptance marks, obviously, or anything like that. So let's take a look at these markings on here. These are standard markings. You're going to see these on pretty much all the Ross bayonets. You can see that C with the arrow mark. That's the Canadian acceptance mark. And I think it's either an 11 or I think it's supposed to kind of be like two eyes, like number 2 for Mark II. You can see that Crown 4. That's the inspection mark. And 816. I believe that's the I don't know. I think that's either the manufacture date or the issue date. Probably the issue date. There's some strange markings on here that I haven't seen before. There's an R at the top in here, and I think 716 or 76. I believe it's 716. So that could be either a rack number or another issue date, but it might be unlikely since this one is 816. Another strange marking on the crossguard here. It says TIN 95. Have not been able to figure out what that is. Standard marking on any Ross rifle bayonet you'll find right here. It will say, sorry about the focusing. Right here it will say Ross Rifle Company, Quebec, patent 1907. And then some of these will have a letter and number coding, which I believe these were issued, before, I guess, before the Canadian Army was an actual army during World War I. I think these were issued to, like, their provinces, and there's various letter codings for it. And I haven't been able to figure out what MSP is, but a lot of people seem to think it's Manitoba, Saskatchewan province, maybe. But it's crossed out, so you can see it was kind of obsolescent or whatever. That's a solid example of a Canadian Ross Mark II second pattern bayonet. These are probably the most common finds out of them. The Mark I, if you find those will be a little bit more expensive. And the US ones are pretty fair price.